Hello, friends and enemies, heroes and villains. Welcome to Epic Realms. Our guest today knows all about being heroes and villains. He's worked for almost
That's
every
it.
major company in wrestling history: the AWA, WCCW, WWE, WCW. Frickin' the list goes on and on. Please welcome wrestling legend and friend of mine, Wild Bill Irwin. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, good, good. How about yourself?
I
Yeah, a
am.
legend. I'm a
You
legend in
are.
my
You.
own mind.
You.
I'm a
Well, I
legend in
mean,
my own mind.
you've got a Legends contract with WWE, do you not?
Yeah,
Well, there
yeah,
you
I
go.
do.
You're a legend.
I do. I was gonna find the doll.
The doll.
I know I got. Oh, the. Have you seen the Goon character?
I have. I have. I saw the action figure they came out with, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Or the doll. You like to call it the dolls because from
Well, they're just dolls. That's what they were when I was a kid. You want to call them action figures or whatever, just so that they're not a doll. Like girls play with dolls. Fine, but
but it doesn't
I
matter
don't
because
know.
anybody can play with a doll.
Yeah, and action figures. I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. You know.
So
Here's the first one. This one
there
was
you go.
I don't know.
Those watching, he's showing
85.
the AWA. For those that are listening to the podcast, he's showing the AWA action figure. You guys
This
can
one's
find that
back in
online.
like 85. So I don't know. Back when I look good. Look how good I look. I look like that back then.
I got a
Anyway,
question for
it's
you. So that was from the tag team when you were with your brother, right?
yeah, it was Scott. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
did he get you into the business, or were you guys get
Yeah,
in at the
yeah.
same
I
time?
would
How did
I
that happen?
I would I would blame him. Yeah.
What's the story?
Well, yeah. Well, the story, I could keep it going all night, but the short and long of it is Scott went down to the University of Minnesota to play football. Uh, that didn't. He did play for 2 years. He started as a freshman. We go anyway. Long story short, he ended up coming out of there and not necessarily that happy with football. And Jim Brunzell, who was there, and other people that were around, said, "Well, maybe you want to be a wrestler. Go talk to Vern Gagne. He runs a wrestling school every once in a while, and it's just an athletic thing. Go, okay." So long story short, he went there, and since Vern is an M man, University of Minnesota
Yeah,
athlete
yeah,
from the past, M man, and so yeah, 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 and Scott went to the camp, like a school
yeah, yeah,
basically, and he went through the school. Him and Buck Zumhoff. Everybody knows in Minnesota knows who Buck
yeah,
Zumhoff
yeah.
is, and if they don't, then they're the lucky ones. Anyway, uh, and Ricky Steamboat, and then there was two other guys that went through, and Cosgrove Aseries, the Iron Sheik, was the guy that ran the school,
Oh, okay.
and so Scott went through that, and of course, in those days, and even to these days, the schools are there to take your money and run you off. If
Yeah,
they can't run you off, by beating you up and working your ass to death, then they'll smart you up and bring you into the business.
right.
And that was the way it was back then. And Cosgrove, being he was a physical specimen at the time, he
Yeah,
was an Olympic shooter wrestler for the Shah of Iran, and was a body protector, a bodyguard for him. Anyway, again, I get going.
yeah. That's fine. That's
Scott
fine.
went.
We got time.
Scott went through the camp and got into wrestling, and then when I was going to Scholastica here in Duluth, playing hockey. That's how the Goon gimmick came around. But anyway, playing hockey, and that ended for me. And talking to Scott, he says, "Well, get out of Duluth." Scott was always one that wanted to, he wanted to be a big fish in a big pond, not a big fish in a little pond.
Right.
So he said, "Well, get out of there. Yeah, no, come down." He was in Charlotte at the time. He says, "Come to Charlotte, visit. I don't know, just get out of there." Okay. So ended up going to Charlotte. What, in June or July of '77, I think it was, and went down there, and right away you start first. I think it was the first day that I got there. Of course, he's going to the gym. And where do we go? We go to Ric Flair's house and start doing free squats. You remember squats?
I do. I do.
You remember squats? We
I
had to
still
do
do them once in a
squats.
while because people are like, do some squats. I'm like, okay, I haven't done them in years, but I'm still gonna school you.
Yeah. And so we went there and trained. And that day I was throwing up and shitting in his bathroom, Ric Flair's bathroom at the same time. But that was, the heat down there, the
Right.
humidity for me was kicking my ass the first couple of days. But, I finally got on through it. And then pretty soon I'm driving Ric Flair, Blackjack Mulligan, Crusher Blackwell, all of these people, driving them in their cars to the matches, and along with my brother I would drive him, and
Yeah.
so
Did you
that's how I
did you
got
have to
it.
deal as much with the whole them trying to drive you off since your brother was already in?
No, not as much. Larry Sharp, I don't know anybody that would know him, but
Yeah.
his father was a promoter out on the East Coast, and he was a good friend of Scott's down in Charlotte, and he was just happened to be in there. And so Larry Sharp, we would on Saturdays, that's when they ran Charlotte, and they ran it in like a armory. And so they set the ring up at noon or whatever. And so it's up all afternoon. So we'd go down there and get in the ring. And this was before I really figured it out that, hey, wait a minute. Get in there, and we just, bounce around a little bit. And Larry Sharp, one day tried to like squeeze me or, make me squeal or something. But it didn't work because I was way too limber. I just kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
and kind of it didn't matter. And then and then eventually, because I was around it so much, one day we're 300 miles that way, and the next day we're 300 miles that way, and I saw the same match out of the same two guys in 2 days in a row, and I went, okay, I think I got this now, and. And then I said, I said something to Scott, and he goes, huh? All right, you're finally smartening up,
Yeah.
But they didn't just come out and tell me,
Yeah.
not until I could start to see it. And like, wait a minute, and then then we did, a little bit of just learning the stuff,
Yeah.
and then basically, who was it? George. I don't know. He was the booker out there at the time. Scott got him to get. I got one match against Professor Malenko, who is the Malenko boys that have work for New York.
Okay.
Their father.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I had a match with him. One match. It was my first match. It was like on September 16th I think I turned 21 or 22 the next day, because the 17th is my birthday.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I go out to the ring, and I was scared just walking to the ring, and he turned me around, twisted me in knots, and he was easy. He didn't hurt me, and then he let me go, and I went back I went walking into the dressing room, like, oh, and there's why can't I think of his name? The Claw.
Oh,
from Minnesota.
Baron von Raschke.
Baron von Raschke's sitting there. He looks at me and he goes, "So, you want to be a wrestler, huh, kid?" Every time I see him now, I say that to him. And, yeah, we just laugh. We just laugh. From there on, it just went on from there. I don't think I got too many more matches there, and that was, like I said, I went down there in June or July. We came home that Christmas. We came home, and when I went back, they sent me to Atlanta.
Okay.
And I went down to Atlanta, and I got in at the Wrestler's Roost down there. Oh, see, I've been hit too many times in the head with chairs. I can't.
Hey,
I know who
you're
I'm
doing better
talking about.
than most of the interviews with guys from your era.
Trying to come up with a name. Oh, Jacques Rougeau.
Oh, Jacques Rougeau.
No,
No?
now that he's out of Montreal. This guy was from, he went as a, he was like Francie, but I'll think of his name. It'll come to me in a minute. He was leaving out of Atlanta and I was going to Atlanta. So they set up that when I went down there, I just took over his apartment,
Oh, okay.
you know.
Okay.
And the apartment was really a studio, 1 bedroom, kitchenette, one big room, kitchenette, living room, and then a bathroom and a bedroom. That's
Okay.
it. And it was $50 a week. And so you just went down and paid the lady, and it was called the Wrestler's Roost because all the wrestlers stayed there. And she was obviously smart to the business, and nobody ever came there and messed with anybody. But you just went down there and paid her, and on you went. So I went in there, and that's where I ran into Tommy Rich and Rick Martel and God, I don't know who else. The Russians.
At what point did you start tagging up with your brother then? And how did that come
Oh,
about?
that was 5 or 6 years in.
Okay.
That was way on in there.
Did you
Well,
guys
that
still
came.
travel in between those? But between that time, did you guys just do stuff separately and you guys were like in different territories, or were you guys like always in the same territory at the same time?
No,
Okay.
no, until we got together and started doing the tag team. And I'm not sure if it was in Texas that we started it or if we started in Atlanta. We were the tag team champs out of Atlanta. I think what we did was I think I was in Texas. So I went into Texas in 80. And then I think Scott came in and we went under as the Super Destroyers.
Right.
With Akbar, and then had some matches where we were the tag team champs or whatever. We won the belts, but lost our hoods, against Buck Rock and Roll Zumhoff and Iceman King Parsons. But so they tore our hoods off, but we had the belts, and so we just came back out. Next time we came out, we were the Long Riders. That's right. We don't care, and we did the Long Rider gimmick.
Who came up with that idea for that gimmick? Was that you or Scott or the Bookers or?
I don't know who might have come up with it. The Long Riders. I think it might have come out of Montreal.
Okay.
Because Scott and I went up there and we both had motorcycles, and we would ride them to the shows in Montreal, and we did it everywhere after a while. But we were up in Montreal in the summer and it was nice, and so we could ride the bikes. If it was 150 miles or less, we'd ride the bikes to the show and back.
So what you're saying is Taker stole your gimmick.
Yeah. Yes, as a matter of fact, he wasn't the first person that ever rode a motorcycle.
No.
I rode Scott and I rode our motorcycles into the Humphrey Dome down there. You remember the bubble in downtown Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Before it came down. Well, Wrestle Rock, you remember Wrestle Rock?
I do.
Well, Scott and I rode our bikes into that building.
Oh, okay.
Right at the beginning of that match with Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall.
Okay.
We rode our bikes in there. Yeah. So, yeah, we did it first.
Right.
But anyway, so, it was all right. And I rode it into the, what is that? What was it? The Omni in Atlanta?
Oh, yeah.
When I was in there working against Tommy Rich and stuff, years later after we were young and dumb together, I came in and I was, the bad guy chasing Tommy Rich for the title, I got the whip and whipped him and, all kinds of good stuff. So, but yeah, I used to ride the bike a lot. And then when we were in Montreal, they started with the Long Riders and they spelled it Longrders.
All right.
So
that must be some sort of French thing.
Here, I'll show you.
You got a thing?
Yeah, I got a thing. You see the middle card?
Oh yeah. That's okay. Because I recognize
You
that
know,
picture. It's the classic picture
yeah,
of you and your brother. You've got the white
yeah.
coat and he's got the
And
black
there's
leather.
Wild Bill, and there's
Yeah.
another Wild Bill.
Look at those.
Yeah,
Are almost like those are
these
pictures
here.
I took on my promotion for this podcast.
Well, yeah, these here are. This one was from some people in Montreal that took pictures all the time, and they sent us big ones. You know, great big ones. Well, like the size of a big picture on the wall. And
Right.
then I made business cards out of them because it's just kind of different. Anyway.
And anybody listening to the podcast, you can catch this on VOD on our Twitch channel. And in about 60 days, it'll be up on YouTube, so you can see that. Maybe I'll make a clip of that so people can see it.
Yeah. Oh, here. I'll show you something else.
It's show and tell on the Epic Runs.
Show and tell. Wild Bill, show and tell. This here. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's a giant poster.
It's a giant picture. That's me.
Oh, you've got two whips in that picture.
Yeah. When I went into Texas in about 1980 is when I started that Wild Bill gimmick. Okay. Right. And I first went in just wearing, tights and boots, pretty much like that. And then I got that leather, and I got this leather jacket, and then the whips and the hat. Pretty soon I ended up,
So the gimmick just slowly grew. It wasn't all like a overnight sort of thing.
No.
Nice.
It kind of grew slowly. And then once I went into the jeans and the leggings, well, I never went back to tights and that kind of stuff.
It's funny. I was looking for pictures or clips or whatever for promotional, just to let people know. And there is a huge, almost everybody who posts about you on Twitter, it's almost always a video or a clip of your scissor kick. And they're like, yeah, back when they used to rip people's heads off. Almost every one, it just looks so brutal. And I laugh every single time. I'm like, yep. Yeah. How did you guys figure out your finishes back then? Was that just a whatever you came up with? Or?
That was just a move that, to actually do that move it's really relatively easy. You're just doing a big boot. And when you hit the ropes one step and you step and jump, you got a lot of momentum behind you and you can get your foot up pretty high.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't hard. And after you did it once or twice, and somebody says, well, what do you want to use as a finish? And I says, well, how about the big boot? Well, what's that? I says, well, I don't know, towards the end, whatever, you make a big comeback, go to shoot me in, I'll reverse it, I'll go for an elbow, you duck it, hit the ropes, I'll hit the ropes, and I'll catch you with the big boot right in the side of the face, right in here. Okay. And so that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then boom, it always looked good. So
it did.
That's how that happened. So I don't know. Scott came back with the superplex. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You don't remember that, do you?
I don't remember when he came back, but I've seen videos of him using the superplex. Yeah, that might have been a little before my time.
He went to Japan early as a super destroyer before I was a super destroyer, and he was just a super destroyer. And he got that over there. I think so. He saw somebody do it over there. And so he came back with that. He'd take you up on the thing and then suplex you off the second rope. And oh my God, that was like, hey.
Yeah.
Nobody else was doing it, so there you go.
Right.
And nowadays, Jesus Christ, they suplex you out of the rafters.
Right.
But anyway, that's how those things come about there.
Did you learn anything from some of the guys you were on the road with? People like Skandar Akbar or maybe a Bill Watts or anything like that? Did you learn anything from any of those guys, or was it all just like right away at the beginning with your training?
What do you mean learn anything?
Was there any like good advice they said? They're like, there's a lot of other interviews and stuff where people are talking about things that they learned from those guys, or just being on the road and listening to people, or whatever the
Well,
may be.
the thing is that, and one of the things I think probably wrong with the wrestling nowadays is you're used to travel, and supposedly nobody knew it, but the guys, they traveled together. It'd be one day one guy would drive his car, and you would ride in their car, and then the next day you'd drive, and you know what I mean. So you're riding with experienced guys. When you're young, you're riding because you don't know anybody, and these guys are okay, and they halfway like you, so they bring you along. And afterwards, on the way home, you're drinking beer and whatever, and talking and yakking, and you learn from them. When they're talking, they always, you know they're talking about the match, so they'll say, "Hey, I saw your match, and you did this thing, and that looked good. You should do that a little bit more," and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They would just give you friendly advice, and then you could ask them questions and that kind of stuff. The biggest thing that where you learn was what, and you were watch the matches. Go stand in a corner right behind the curtain, because you're always in some high school or something with a stage, and just stand behind the curtain and watch the match. Watch the other guys work, because as you do, you'll start seeing, oh, no, that didn't look good. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
You just start seeing stuff, and you learn. And then you also, like, you always watch the match before you. Why? Because I'll be damned if you don't. You'll go out and have the same match. Why? Because you didn't watch the match.
Right.
Everybody, the matches, they go out, they like to do certain stuff, or maybe, if it's midgets or whatever. But the thing is that, people go out there, and you get a different feeling when you go into the ring. And sometimes it's like, sometimes the crowd wants blood and guts, and sometimes they want tickles and tackles and laughter.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, didn't see that from before, you may be out there doing the same thing they did, trying to do something, and the crowd doesn't want it. So you have to watch to see what they've seen already, and you don't want to give them the same thing again. So you have to watch and go. Then you go out there and try to give them something different. Like if these guys were just out there and they were doing a lot of high spots, tickles and tackles, and boom, bitty boom, bitty boom, bitty boom, you might go out there and grab a headlock and sit down, right?
Yeah.
And the people are going, they might start chanting like they did in Montreal, boring, boring, boring. And the more they chanted, the louder it got, the more you just sat there. You've got them. They're chanting at you, for Christ's sake. Why are you going to move?
Right.
And then eventually you start doing some stuff, but you don't have to do as much, kind of, because they saw a lot in one match, and then you come out, you can't, what are you going to do? These guys did every high spot. You going into the ring. What are you going to do? Cut your head off?
Right.
So yeah, sometimes have to go the other direction and just sit there, grab a hold, and just do some reversals, and that kind of stuff. So it's but you learn from all of them. You learn from Bill Watts not to miss the show and don't be late, because he'd fine you. Oh, all right, big deal. And
Watts
that kind
finds
of
people?
stuff.
Come on now.
Yeah. So it was, yeah, you learn from everybody. You always learn from everybody. So
You got to be pretty good friends with Michael Hayes, yes? Correct?
Yeah.
How did that friendship? How did you guys meet, and how did that friendship come about?
We met in Atlanta, Georgia, when I first went there. That's the first territory I went to. Well, Michael was in there. He was driving, because he was down from I think he was up from Tennessee, something. And he was driving a green Dodge van, and he had Terry Gordy with him. And then I think Buddy was there too. And we were the same age, and the same fucking bullshit, running. And I just started traveling with them in the van, and then so I'd go somewhere, they'd come behind me, they'd go someplace, but when I mean by somewhere, I mean like you left Atlanta and you went to Kansas City. Well, right behind you might come them, and then maybe they would head to it into Louisiana, and I'd go into Louisiana. Just so we're always kind of following each other around the country for a lot of years, and we're always in the territories together. So we knew each other fairly well. Yeah, yeah. I still I don't talk to Michael that much. Jimmy Garvin talks to Michael more than I do, but I text him and he texts me back. I text him, hey, happy Thanksgiving, Merry
Yeah.
Christmas, happy birthday, that kind of shit. And how you doing? He says, oh, I'm still here. So yeah. So I mean, I don't write him letters or have half
Right.
an hour phone calls with him, but yeah, still in touch with him. Yeah.
Nice. Do you guys get to work
Mhm.
with each other at all? Or was it mostly because, you were both either, baby
Oh no, we
faces or
worked
heel?
against each other in Texas. The Freebirds were kind of baby faces too, so we've had some matches, and then there was a Von Erichs, the Long Riders, and the Freebirds in a three-way tag match that was a pretty good show in Texas once. And yeah, so we were in the ring with them, not a lot, you know, because basically, they were heels and so were we.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I was curious. You guys team up at
You know,
all?
I no. I
No.
mean, I'm not going to say no because as soon as I do, somebody will
Somebody's
pull
gonna
up and
pull it up.
say,
Not to
"Hey,
your
hey, Rick."
recollection.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite sure I've been in some match or somewhere with Akbar, uh, doing something, one man gang or whatever, something against Michael and the Freebirds, or I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff out there over all those years. Do I remember one? No,
Yeah.
you know.
How crazy
So
were the WCW days, WCCW days? Was it pretty crazy down there when the Von Erichs were running and against the Freebirds and all that? How was that?
well, I don't know what it was. It crazy. It was running all the time. You're when I say running, yeah, you're running every day to a different show and going here and there, and yeah, you were very busy most of the time. Uh, yeah, did you drink some beer on the way home and throw the beer bottles at the speeding signs or the 55-mile-an-hour signs and that kind of shit? Yeah, we did all that kind of crazy ass shit, but we didn't. We weren't really crazy. I
Yeah.
don't know. I suppose if you really knew the stories, you might think, yeah, I think you were crazy.
Did you ever have to worry?
Yeah.
There's lots of stories about different territories, obviously, where people were, sometimes they were afraid they were going to get stabbed or anything like that. Did you ever have to worry about that? Did you ever have to be concerned about riots or any of that kind of stuff in your career from your shenanigans?
Yeah, there's things there, like Blackjack Mulligan. He told me because I drive him, and he told me stories of, you got to watch the people. You got to watch them, and it's not the one yelling and screaming in your face. They're not the one that's going to hurt you. It's not the guy that's in front of you thinking I'm going to kick your ass. That's not the one that's going to get you. It's the one sitting there not saying a word is the one that's going to get you because they'll just, like he said, a little old lady pulled out a fucking shaving razor and cut him in the leg
Oh wow.
in some place, cut him pretty good, right? Had to go get it stitched up and that kind of stuff. Well, the next day he's got a temperature and going crazy. And well, anyway, she used to fucking, she denutted the pigs at her farm with that fucking thing. And so,
Oh
he got
man.
he got an infection from that cut. So yeah, there was some crazy stuff, and I don't know. Tommy Rich and I had a cage match up somewhere. I don't even know, but the crowd went crazy and was pulling the cage, and I don't know. Yeah, it was pretty, you know, crazy because I think I got the whip and was whipping Tommy with the whip, you know. But you just have them, you knock them down, and if you lay flat and I swing the whip, and basically it comes across and it really hits the mat. It really doesn't. You're gonna feel it, but you're not gonna. It's not gonna tear you open. It's not gonna be so terrible you can't stand it. But the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
they loved it.
For sure.
So
You
yeah,
had
yeah.
there's a handful of matches online that you've done with Andre. Were you
Well,
were
it's only
you
one.
was well maybe it's the same video that I've seen on from some different angle, but did you get along with him? Did he get along with you? Were you
Yeah,
guys
Andre and Scott were friends.
okay?
They played cribbage together. You know, that's how the old timers were. Like when I first started in the business, the old timers, Andre, guys a little bit older than me, a lot of it was card playing in the dressing rooms, right? You'd come and there they are, they'd be getting dressed, but they're playing cribbage, right? And Andre played cribbage and Scott played cribbage. And so, yeah, Scott and Andre were friends. And then Frenchie Martin was Andre's driver. He was a little referee guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, so yeah, I got along with Andre fine. Andre was very nice. He was never, you know, he had no reason to be mean,
Yeah.
right? You know, so yeah, he was always very nice. And so when he came in to Texas, I don't know, you know, I think they didn't put people in the ring with him that couldn't work or couldn't, you know, keep up or do what he wanted to do. And because he'd be pissed, he doesn't
Right.
want to go out there with a piece of junk.
Right.
And so, you know, Frank and I were pretty hot at the time. And yeah, you know, and no, you know, I had met him before through Scott. And so that worked out. Yeah. Yeah. You work with Andre, go out there and, you know, kick his ass and he'll beat you in the end. You know, so basically that's what I tried to do, but you know, it didn't work. But
Yeah. Right.
so, like I said, I ran my head into his ass once, you know.
In a match or not in a match?
No, in the match, he did this. It was his gimmick. He liked it. He thought it was funny. He would shoot you in to the ropes, and then he would drop down, right? And you know, he step over and hit the other rope. So what he did, he'd stand up and be bent way over, like he's standing up with his hands down, and he stands up. And when you come,
You hit him right in
you
the
know,
back.
his ass is right at your face. And so, well, it really wasn't at mine, but I mean, it was very close.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
made it look, oh, you know, and you know, do the crazy shit. And then you get a little bit of heat on him and just go home. You know, it was easy. And when he says go home, Blackjack Milligan told me when I drove him once, he worked against Andre. And he said, I don't know what I was asking him, but he said, that guy, when he says, boss, let's go home by, let's finish it and get out of here. He says, you do. Because Mulligan, who was, I don't know, what was he, 6'8", 6'6"?
Yeah. He wasn't a small guy either.
No, he was 350 to 375, you know. Barry Windham's dad and all them guys, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, he told me, he says, when he says go home, you go home, because he would pick me up and throw me in the third row if he wanted to. And I thought, okay,
Yeah.
he wins. So,
we talked earlier
yeah.
about the Goon gimmick. You did hockey and all that kind of stuff. What was this something that you pitched to New York, or did they come to you? How did that gimmick come about?
Well, Bruce Pritchard, you know Bruce Pritchard is, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He was part of the talent or part of the office in those years. I think it was 95, somewhere in there. And I was trying to get in there. That's one place I'd never been, was into New York. You know, I've been to everybody else, Montreal, Mobile, Alabama, Louisiana, you know, Atlanta, all that down south and all that stuff, you know, but never into for Vince. And so he was there with Vince, and I was just trying to get in. So I'd call him every once in a while, and, you know, hey, you know, and he goes, well, you know, trying to get in and have him, you know, maybe come up with something and just stay in his ear. And when they think of something, maybe they'd think of you. Hey, you know who'd be good? So that's what I was doing. So one day I had him on the phone talking to him, and he goes, well, you know, if we brought you in, what would you do? I mean, what do you got? I mean, you know, what? And because I knew Vince wouldn't go for the Wild Bill thing because it wasn't his.
Right.
And and I thought, right there on the phone, I thought, well, you've had every other sport come in, but you've never had a hockey player come in. Oh, yeah, a hockey player. Well, what are you thinking? And of course, I'm sitting there not thinking at all. I'm thinking, I have no fucking clue. What do you mean? What am I thinking?
Right.
So right there, I go, well, I played hockey in college, and I played hockey my whole life. And if I can, and in college, hockey is 3 periods of 20 minutes apiece, and you're out there, and you do that out. And if I can skate for an hour in that shit and that material, I'll bet I can wrestle 20 minutes in that gear. And he goes, well, what are you thinking? I says, well, come out as a wrestling guy, and you could come out with the gloves and, shin pads and the whole 9 yards, and just, yakking. I come up with the idea of just take skates, get a real pair of skates, and take the toques, as they're called, the blades off. And wrestling boots have that foam.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sole, and just have that and stack it up, and then have the guy that puts it on trim it in so that when you're walking, it looks like a skate. Anyway.
Yeah.
And they, oh yeah. So he took off. He said, "Okay, I'll be back. I'll get back with you." And then eventually, I don't know, a few days or a week, I don't even remember how long, they came back and said, Vince liked it. He wants to call you the Goon. And I'm like, I'm in. Fine.
Yeah.
I don't care. Shit, let's go. So we went out there and did all this stuff, and they bought the outfit that had the pants, the shin pads, the socks, the skates, had somebody do the skates, the gloves, the jerseys, all of it, and went after it.
So do you think that with Vince coming up with the name the Goon, does that make you think that maybe he actually watched a little bit of hockey or knew a bit about hockey?
Oh yeah, he knows about hockey. He's out there he's up northern New York.
Yeah. The Rangers.
He knows. Yeah, he knows.
Okay.
He knows hockey. And that's where he got the Goon character. I think, is that, that's what, the Goon on the hockey team is the guy that's going to beat you up in the corner. He gets penalties.
Yeah, they're not the skilled skater. They're the guy to get rid of the skilled player.
Yeah. So that's what my thing was. I beat up everybody, been kicked out of all the leagues. They're doing, the hockey players, you a bunch of, and now I'm going into wrestling. Well, so that's what I did. And so I went out there and had about 6-8 months run. And I just think it was one of those things, wrong time, wrong place. They didn't know exactly what to do with this.
Right.
It gets over because everybody I've ever talked to loves the Goon.
Right.
But they didn't know how to push it or do anything with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it just kind of just died, faded away, but then they'd call me back out there to go do, battle royals and gimmick battle royals and just different stuff like that. So, it worked out. I mean,
didn't you get to come back a couple times as Wild Bill in New York as well?
No.
Right.
No, Wild Bill did work down in Texas and, made a couple spot shows. One was way down in South Texas. Corpus Christi.
Okay.
I worked against, remember Duke the Dumpster?
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked with him. He hit me in the head with a trash can and it bit me. You know how, aluminum.
Yeah.
When it crumples.
Yeah.
Well, it crumpled and bit my skull. So I had to go. When I came back, they took me to the local hospital and they stitched it up and on I went. But that was a Wild Bill thing.
Yeah.
What's that?
I was going to say, for those that are listening to the podcast, a lot of our viewers or listeners might not know this, but I might have mentioned a little bit ago, I've known you for almost 20 years now. And I got something to show you.
Oh
God.
Yeah.
So, but I've heard, you've told plenty of little stories on the side. Maybe some of these you'll remember, maybe they won't. But do you remember telling a story about meeting Mark Henry for the first time and
Hmm.
his first body slam? And would you be willing to tell that story?
Yeah, Mark Henry. He was young and just coming in when I was out there with the Goon just coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And before the matches, they get the ring up, and some of the young guys they go get in, and I had really just gotten this gimmick, and so I got the shin pads on, wearing shin pads, and I got those skates on, and so I go to the ring just to hit the ropes, see how they feel, and God, they were easy. It was just they weren't a problem at all. And so I'm out there hitting the ropes, doing stuff, and Mark Henry's in the ring doing something, and I don't know, we're chit chatting or just fiddle farting around in there, and he asked me if I thought I could slam him. And I looked at him and I said, "Can you jump on my shoulder?" He says, "Yeah." Well, then I can slam you. Because if you think I can pick you up, but I don't think anybody had ever showed him how to be slammed. So I think I showed him that when people come, when I'm coming here, you slam me. And I'd go to him and just, as I had shown him that when I go, you're not picking anything up. Of course he could pick me up
Right.
anyway, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying he couldn't, but he realized that there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
And so I said, when you come to me and I'm going down, I need you to step up and jump and get up on my shoulder, arch your back, boom, put your feet up in the back, head up, put your hands on my shoulder, boom, and then we'll hold for a second and then turn and boom. Okay. So we did.
And Mark Henry
So
took
I
his first
slammed him.
slam.
Yeah.
You know,
I've
I
never I, I've never talked to him about that. Does he remember the story? I don't know how he remembers that.
right.
But you know, but that's what he wanted to be slammed. He had never been slammed. And I said, well, if you can jump up on my shoulder, I can slam you.
Do you think he
Because
was,
that's
kind of a mark for you at the time, or because he grew up in Texas and he watched WCCW, so he had to know who you are and watched all your stuff growing up.
it's possible, but I don't know.
Yeah, you
He
don't want to put
didn't
words in his mouth, obviously, but
he wasn't talking to me like Mark,
okay.
like somebody all gaga goo. I think he was more interested in getting in the ring and seeing how the ring was.
Yeah, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I know a lot of guys, Mark's, dog, but as a fan, he was a fan before coming into
Yeah,
the business, so I thought maybe
yeah.
he.
But that's one of the things you learned. You asked me before, things that you learn whenever you go and you get in the ring. You always go check that ring out if you can
Okay.
before your match,
Yeah.
before they get going. Take a look at it, make sure it's put upright. Go get in it, run around, get a feel for it. Because when you're traveling around all these different territories and all these different little rings, oh God, you can get in there and find a hole in a piece of wood, and they just they put carpet over in the cushion and think, oh, it'll be fine. But if you step in that, let's say when you got Mark Henry on your shoulder, and you twist your knee and your ankle, you can blow your knee. So you always
Right.
kind of went in there, jumped around the ring, and got a feel for how is this ring? Is it hard? Is it soft? Does it bounce a lot? How are the ropes? Are they too tight, real tight, loose? What?
Yeah. Are they rope? Are they
Get a
quite
feel
cable?
for. Yeah, so you would do that, and I think that's probably what he was doing, and I was out there checking out Goon boots and that kind of shit. So
Nice. There was another one I vaguely
yeah.
remember, and maybe I'm remembering this story a little bit different. Were you there for a buried alive match, sitting underneath
Yeah.
the thing? You want to talk about that at all? Because you said that, and that blew my mind that day that you told me that story. And I
Yeah.
think there were like four of us you told that story to.
That was when um Undertaker versus, I don't even know who he was versus. I don't even know.
One
All
of
I
the
know,
30,000 people.
well, it was one of, the guy he was having the match with, whatever. But the deal was that he got slammed, and they threw him and went through the ring into a casket, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they got pictures of him in the casket, and then they cut away. And when they cut away, we had to slide that casket out and bring another one, had to go right in its spot, and then they come right back, and the dirt has covered him and he was gone. And I can't remember who he was wrestling, but yeah, I had to sit underneath the ring all afternoon.
Was it just you, or were you down there with someone else?
Oh
Anyone
no,
else?
there was 2 or 3 of us under there,
Okay.
because we all had to be able to pull one and push another one in, and it had to be quick. You can't be,
Yeah.
screwing around. You can't get it halfway through and you can't get it out, that, because they're going to come back and take a shot of this. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted was, okay. So that's what we did. So yeah, we sat under there. I sat one, and we had a video monitor under the ring. And so we watched a whole show sitting on our asses, laying on our asses underneath the ring, you know.
You ever have to
Yeah,
worry,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what if
yeah,
the
yeah.
what if the ring breaks while I'm underneath here? What if a board?
Well, it could, but I'm sure, their rings were pretty solid.
Yeah.
And if he wants one to break, they'll break. But if he didn't want it to break, it wouldn't break. So.
I want to go back
So.
to we talked about WCCW earlier, and everybody's heard. You've told the story a million times about David Von Erich. So I'm not going to ask about that. People can go and watch all the other things. But what was your relationship like with that whole family? And do you still keep up with family today? Because you had a lot of interaction with them throughout the years, so I figured I would
Yeah.
ask. And have you seen any of the stuff that is it Carrie's kids are doing?
Well, I don't. I see a little
Kevin?
bit of what his daughter's doing, and I see what the boys are doing. I don't really follow it, but yeah, Kevin has called me. Just I'll be sitting here and the phone rings, and I look and I go, Kevin Von Erich, and I answer the phone. It's Kevin, and he's he's out in Hawaii, and he just sitting there and doing something. And he says, "Yeah, came across your number. I just thought I'd call you and tell you, hey, God, how you doing?" Just
Yeah.
because he remembers, And so yeah, I've talked to him. He said, you want to come to Hawaii? You're more than welcome. Come on. I bought land here. I got all kinds of. I think all the money I don't know how much money he got or whatever, but whatever he had, they went to Hawaii and bought land, and so
Yeah.
that's where he lives now. And the boys have grown up there, and I've never met the 2 boys. I don't know them from Adam, but no, everything was fine. I guess one of the reasons that I was there for 3 years was that when I first got there, uh, I got along with David really well.
Okay.
And then, Carrie coming along, and Kevin was older.
Right.
And so I just got along with the boys. They were kind of same goofball character,
Yeah.
same age and all that kind of shit. So yeah, we got along fine. And Carrie and David, and they just all, yeah, it all spiraled away from them.
Yeah.
It all started with it all started with the older brother, and I don't even know what the older brother's name was. There was a son before Kevin, and I wouldn't say this is gospel, but the word was that when he was like 2 or 3, there's a big storm. I don't know. This is what I was told. I have no idea really whether it's true or whatever, but there was a big storm. They had a lot of lightning and that kind of stuff. And after the storm, I don't know, the little kid, he was out and he touched a metal, like a pole building, and it was electrified from a wire, and it shocked him and it knocked him down into a deep puddle, and he drowned in this puddle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And then there's Kevin, and Kevin's Kevin, he's fine.
Yeah.
And then David, well, David was fine. They were all fine, but David had his problems,
Yeah. Yeah.
and died in Japan. We could go on with that story, but
Yeah.
whatever the reasonings, he dies. Carrie kills himself, and that's another stupid thing from what I've all heard about. It was ridiculous. But and then Mike. Well, Mike got into. You don't need to go into the stories, but Mike got into shit that kind of fucked him up, and he went in for a shoulder operation, and I forget what they call it. The operation, because of drugs in his system or something, is said. I don't know. I can't remember what they called it, but he came out a little fucked up. He wasn't the same kid. They almost lost him in the hospital, and when they did get him back and out, he was never the same. He liked rock and roll, and he was really good at a guitar player and that kind of a thing. And I think he was a guitar player. He was in bands. He liked being in a rock and roll band. But of course, Fritz wasn't having a rock and roll band. He was going to be a wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he got pushed to be a wrestler, and I don't know, whatever. Eventually, they found him underneath a bush in one of the parks where it's, OD'd.
Yeah.
Tragedy.
So,
yeah. And then Chris was Chris. Chris was always small because he had lung deficiency or something. Anyway, he was always very small, and that was always a problem for him. He was a little, I worked with him in the ring, and he was all right, but he was just small.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess that affected him, and so
yeah,
he took his own life also. So I don't know. There was a lot of craziness. So,
yeah. Is there anybody else from that territory you got along with that we should mention or talk about?
Oh God, everybody in the place. Jeez.
Yeah. Anyone you still talk with?
Brody come and go.
Oh yeah, Brody.
Bruiser Brody. I met Bruiser Brody in Kansas City just before that, and then I went to Japan with him, and then he's coming into Texas, so I knew him there. Yeah, I ran with him. Brody was great. I'm trying to remember there was a mask guy that Gary used to bring in, Gary Hart. I can't remember his name. I've been hitting the head with chairs.
Well, that's all right. That's who do you think you had the best matches with? Of all the people you worked with, who did you gel with the best and have some really good matches with?
Shit, I don't know. Some people would say I never had a good match.
Well, from your opinion, who did you really enjoy working with?
Well, Tommy Rich and I had, because we were friends when we were young. When I first went in, Tommy was, they pushed him to the world title match he was like 20 years old or whatever, and we all the same age. And Tommy and I, years later, when I came in as the heel, so Tommy and I had good matches. Rick Martel,
Yeah.
Geez, I don't know. Is
there anybody you wish you could have had a match with or could have worked with?
I mean, nothing that really comes to mind right off the tip of my tongue, like someone that I really, wished I could have worked with,
Yeah. Or somebody from a different generation before or after you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I did work with Bockwinkel, I think. And
yeah,
I worked with Larry the Axe Henning. Larry the Axe Henning, he's an older gentleman when he's at the end of his career, sort of.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe the beginning to middle of mine. And we're supposed to go in the ring and, wrestle. And, he says, no, start slow and taper off. We don't got to kill each other. We don't got to go fast. We don't got to start fast. Just, we'll just go have a match. Hey, but great. You're the heel. You're the guy with the ears. I'm listening to you. Fine, sure. I don't. Whatever you want to do, really. Right? Okay. And of course, Wild Bill. He's out there with this stupid hat on, sunglasses, a whip, and the long coat and shit. And there he comes into the ring, and hey, so he walks up, and we kind of walk up to each other like, yeah, and then and I had my sunglasses on, and he reached up and grabbed the sunglasses off my face and crinkled them up just like that. And well, that was it. The fight's on, and it was fucking. We went balls to wall after that. I mean, come on, you can't be a big tough guy with a bullwhip and a hat and then he wrinkles up your glasses and you don't fucking go bananas. Well,
right.
You have to go bananas. And off we went, and inside and out, had a great match, and we laughed and giggled about it afterwards. Oh yeah, start slow. Jesus Christ. But it was it was that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great story. I love it. I haven't heard that one.
No, yeah, that was Larry. I don't know how trying to think of crazy things that happen.
Nice. Well, you have been doing autograph signings throughout the last couple of years, so we'll get some.
I got something for you.
Uh-oh. Well, here, hold on. Let's get to that. We'll get to that in the Q&A afterwards. We'll do that, and I'll promote the next shows, and the people that are in the chat can stick around for whatever this extra special thing Bill has for us.
No,
you want to do it for the podcast? All right.
Yeah. Come on here. Just watch this.
They're not going to be able to see it. They'll only be able to hear it.
Oh.
I mean, the live stream will be able to see it.
Oh.
All right.
Can you see this?
I can't see. Oh God, I know what it is too.
I'm gonna get this back up.
All right, I know what this is.
Wait a
too.
minute. Oh.
Oh God.
Wait a minute. I'm gonna stop this.
Oh God.
Why is that? What is it? I've got this.
So for those that are listening, Bill's got an old camera set up. And he's got it queued up.
I can't get it. I had it playing earlier, and there you could see you.
Well, I can hear it. That's what really matters.
Yeah. I can't believe it. It was playing earlier. Can you see the little screen?
I can now. Yeah. Well, we'll see about. I'm going to read off our next upcoming. There it is. Here, let it play. We'll listen to it. I think they all got just a little bit of something to say. What do you got to say there? Just sort of, Dark Wolf ain't nothing but a pup. And when I get through with him, he's going to wish his daddy pulled out early. Oh, man, I don't like bringing it back to him, but he has. Well, the problem is, he doesn't know my parents. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know what I've done. The fact of the matter is, when you get in that ring, you're going down.
That's Dark Wolf talking right there, baby. Right. Panama. Yeah, I got them. Remember the camera up above.
Right. Yeah, you guys record everything.
I can't get this scratch. Today I played this when I found it. I thought of you and I thought, oh, look, it plays perfect. No, it's not. And that was, what's his name? The kid. Now he's into politics. The kid.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Josh.
Yeah.
That's hilarious that you still have that.
Oh yeah.
So for those that are listening, it's an old video from when Bill was training us. And so you get some behind the scenes. There's
Yeah.
Uh,
We're going to be getting in the ring with a couple of singles matches, and we'll be going on.
Yeah.
that's great.
And then, yeah, then I have the whole match of you and who is it?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, I'll stop it. Doesn't seem to want to. Played nice and clear, and I thought, oh, he'll be able to see it.
That's great.
You know.
All right. Give me one moment, Bill. We're going to get to our upcoming shows here, and then we can we'll chit chat with the live audience. I'll ask some questions. We can tell some stories. I know somebody wants to hear an embarrassing tale about me. Hopefully, you don't have any. December 27th is a special holiday episode.
That's embarrassing enough.
Hold on, Bill. December 27th is a special holiday episode. For the podcast only form, it's going to feature more content from previous Q&A episodes and sessions that were once only seen live. So if you guys listen to the podcast, that's going to be the next episode, December 27th, because it is the holiday season. January 9th, we're going to be joined by Danny Efforth from Sovereignty Games. They're going to be joining us to talk about their entire library of digital games and how their company came to be and the future of the industry. That's going to be available on January 10th in podcast form. January 23rd, hip-hop singer Nerdy is going to be joining us. We're going to talk about his life influences on his music, his opening for Ludacris and other bands, as well as his nonprofit organization, Justice Frontline Aid. That podcast is going to be available January 24th. So, make sure to follow us, sign up, rate, review, all of that stuff. It helps us, and in turn, it helps all of our guests. So for those of you listening to the show on podcast form, thank you so much for listening to us at Epic Realms.